We're so done with new year, new you. This year, it's more you on Bumble. More of you shamelessly sending playlists, especially that one filled with show tunes. More of you finding Geminis because you know you always like them. More of you dating with intention because you know what you want. And you know what? We love that for you. Someone else will too. Be more you this year and find them on Bumble.
Check out this video and you'll see there's a little Pee-wee in every one of us.
I know you are, but what am I?
Okay, maybe not.
I meant to do that.
But inside this movie, there's one big adventure.
Nobody hit me to that, dude.
Big family fun from a man called Pee-wee.
That's my name, don't wear it out.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I don't make monkeys, I just trade them.
The fun's on video cassette and DVD.
Beyond its slapstick charm and surreal storytelling, this 80s flick captured the spirit of the 80s like few films did. It blended childhood innocence with the growing irreverence of the decade, influencing everything from comedy to fashion, and even inspiring a generation of filmmakers who would go on to shape the culture of the 90s and beyond. This is the film that not only launched Tim Burton's directorial career, but also cemented Paul Reubens' alter ego Pee-wee Herman as an indelible pop culture icon. This quirky, offbeat comedy follows Pee-wee on a bizarre cross-country journey to recover his beloved bike that was stolen. Its 90-minute runtime is packed with absurd humor, vivid visuals, and a cast of eccentric characters. So dust off your light gray suit, red bow tie, and white patent leather shoes as Ben Carpenter, Laramy Wells, and I discuss Pee-wee's Big Adventure from 1985 on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Welcome in, 80s Flick lovers. I'm Tim Williams, your guide and host for all things retro on the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Get ready to dive into a thrilling ride through the unforgettable films that defined a generation. Think epic adventures, killer soundtracks, and those legendary one-liners we all know and love. We're absolutely thrilled to have you with us on this nostalgia trip. If you're loving the show, don't hold back. Leave a glowing 5-star review on Apple Podcast. And no matter where you're tuning in, smash that follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We want to hear from you, so jump into our conversations on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as long as it's still available, or YouTube. Your thoughts and memories are what makes this community special. Feeling generous, we've got a way for you to support the show at buymeacoffee.com. Every contribution helps keep the magic alive. And don't forget to swing by 80sflickflashback.com and our TeePublic store for some totally rad merch and original designs. All right, let's crank up the fun and get this party started. Joining me today are two co-hosts who bring their own wild and irreverent energy to the table. First up is Ben Carpenter, who embodies the enthusiasm and curiosity of someone who would gladly jump into a car with a mysterious truck driver, ending up in a rather interesting situation. How you doing, Ben?
Wow, I didn't know. I didn't know I embodied that kind of energy, but that I guess that's good. Thank you. I'm good. It's good to be back.
That's good. And next we have Laramy Wells from Moving Panels Podcast. He's the kind of person who could effortlessly break into song or start discussing a giant dinosaur without missing a beat. How you doing, Laramy?
I am great, and I am so excited to talk about Pee-wee.
Yes, we are. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. All right.
I know this is Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but do we need to get the secret word for the day?
Let's see. I know, yeah. We will talk a little bit about Pee-wee's Playhouse towards the end. Secret word of the day, let's say bow tie. Well, if we hear bow tie, then we'll all scream. Yeah. That was the thing, right? It's been a while.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Whenever anyone said the secret word, you screamed real loud.
Yeah. All right. Cool deal.
And then they would try it. Do you want to try it?
Yeah, let's do it. Bow tie. Ah! All right. Now that we're all in the mood, let's get started on the podcast.
The dogs are barking now too because I yelled. Oh.
No worries. All right. So, Ben, we'll start with you. When did you see Pee-wee's Big Adventure for the very first time?
I do know I saw it in the theater. I was 11 years old, I think, when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, and maybe I didn't look up, how it was released, but I feel like it was released in a limited way at first.
It was,
and I feel like I went and saw it at, my, I think my dad took me to see it sometimes we would go down to Cheshire Bridge. It had a sort of an art house theater there.
Oh, okay.
And
Gotcha.
we would go down there to see movies like this that were in limited release at first, and I believe we saw it there for the first time.
All right, what about you, Laramy?
I honestly don't remember. I know I didn't see it in theaters. I was too young to have seen it in theaters, but I was a huge Pee-wee fan. And so this was probably either a rental or I saw it on, more than likely I saw it on like an HBO like free preview weekend.
Okay.
Because I don't think the first time I saw it was on like, network television.
Gotcha.
So I either saw it as a rental or I saw it like on HBO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw it in the theater, but I didn't see it when it first came out. It had been out for a while. And I think because, I don't know about the trailers, like I knew how big of a hit it had become, and people were talking about it, so I knew I wanted to see it. But the previews didn't really appeal to me. Like I didn't really understand what kind of movie it was or who Pee-wee Herman was. So, but I do remember a friend of mine. I think I told the story once before, but a friend of mine, it was his birthday party, and after the party, his mom was like, "I'll take you guys to the movies," and our choices were Back to the Future or Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And the birthday kid kind of wanted to see Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but I had already seen Back to the Future, and I was like, "Dude, you've got to watch Back to the Future. Nobody wants to see Pee-wee. Leave that Pee-wee stuff alone. So go see Back to the Future." And so we ended up going to see Back to the Future because the other kids wanted to see that more than Pee-wee. So it had to have been a while after that before I saw it. But so how long has it been since you rewatched it before rewatching it for the podcast?
I watched it with the kids probably 12, 15 years ago, something like that. And I don't think I had seen it since then. So it had been a little while. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Laramy?
Yeah, it's been several years since I've seen it. This was actually my first watch with my kids.
Oh, okay.
So they're familiar with Pee-wee because they've seen Pee-wee's Playhouse. My daughter Ruby is actually a big fan of Pee-wee's Big Holiday, the Netflix.
Oh yeah, the Netflix movie. Yeah.
But this was their first time seeing that one. But yeah, it's probably been a good, I would even say like Ben did, 10, 15 years since I've probably last saw it.
Yeah. I honestly could not remember. Like I know I saw it a bunch of times. It had to have been on cable like all the time. I probably had recorded it and watched it a million times as a kid. But it was just one that I just never really went back to. And honestly, probably until like 5 or 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, maybe 15 years ago, I had forgot it was a Tim Burton movie. So being a big Tim Burton fan, I just didn't associate it. But going back and watching it now, it's like there's so much Tim Burton in it. It's not full on Burton, but you definitely see those little nuances that come out. And of course, the Danny Elfman score. Yeah, we'll talk about that too. So, from the get go, you're like, oh, this totally feels like Tim Burton now. So, all right, well, let's jump in with story origin and pre-production. So Paul Reubens joined the Los Angeles troupe The Groundlings in the 70s and started his career as an improvisational comedian and stage actor. He developed the character of Pee-wee Herman at The Groundlings. After a failed audition for Saturday Night Live, he debuted a stage show starring Pee-wee called The Pee-wee Herman Show in 1981. Pee-wee became an instant cult figure, and for the next decade, Reubens was completely committed to his character, doing all of his public appearances and interviews as Pee-wee. The success of the Pee-wee Herman Show prompted Warner Brothers to hire him to write a script for a full-length Pee-wee Herman film. His original concept was a remake of Pollyanna from 1960. It was Reubens' favorite movie, and it would be Pee-wee Herman in the Haley Mills role. Cast and crew members often take bicycles around studio lots to get from point A to point B. So Reubens was given a 1940 Schwinn to ride while he was at Warner Brothers working on the movie script. He loved it so much he decided to go away from Pollyanna and come up with an original idea about the bike. So what do you think about the Pollyanna remake? Would that have been a good idea?
No. No.
Yeah,
it would have been funny, but no.
Yeah.
Right.
He does kind of have that Pollyanna quality, though, like, a little bit.
Yeah, innocent and naive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still so crazy that because was he given any guidance to make it like I'm not going to say family friendly, but kind of tone it down, because the Pee-wee Herman show is adult.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a good question. I didn't see anything that said they gave him any kind of parameters or said they wanted to be, toning it down for a wider audience. I think they just liked the character. They knew the character was popular and they just wanted to cash in, I think, on the character. So I think they pretty much gave him the liberty to do something. With him wanting to remake Pollyanna, that's a pretty family friendly film. So that probably influenced him as far as doing something more family friendly. He was working on the script. He had a long list of directors that he wanted to work with. The studio chose not anyone on the list. Rather than going along for the sake of getting the movie made, he put his foot down and refused to proceed. Shortly thereafter, one of Reubens' friends mentioned a short film called Frankenweenie, the precursor to the feature-length film that came out in 2012, by a 26-year-old Tim Burton. Reubens was friends with Shelley Duvall, who was in the Burton short film, so he gave her a call. She agreed that Reubens and Burton would make a perfect match, and the connection was made. Reubens said later, "It was the biggest piece of luck early on in my career that I could have ever had." So after hiring Burton, Reubens and his writing partner, Phil Hartman from Saturday Night Live, and Michael Varhol revised the script. They had read Sid Field's 1979 book Screenplay and wrote the script according to the book's advice. Reubens said, "It's a 90-minute film. It was a 90-page script. On page 30, I lose my bike. On page 60, I find it. It's literally exactly what they said to do in the book. There should be a MacGuffin kind of thing, something you're looking for." And I was like, okay, I'll use my bike. And that was it. And I've read that actually film schools will use Pee-wee's Adventure as a perfect example of following that, that screenplay formula. So,
yeah, I looked behind me when you said that because I thought I had that book right at the end, but I do have Sid Field's screenplay book from when I was in film school.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And for it being a 90-minute film, it doesn't really feel like that. It moved pretty well. It does jump a lot. It is kind of like a scatter shot at certain times. It's one of those movies where if you just caught 15 minutes of it, you'd find something fun to watch, and you could see that 15 minutes and then leave and come back 30 minutes later and be like, oh, he's still looking for the bike, you wouldn't have lost much of the plot or anything.
No, it has some of those vignettes they had in the classic comedies, of the 40s and the 50s, where it would just be, here's just a bit in the middle of this movie.
Right.
And so, it absolutely has those moments, but those are the moments we love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what makes it memorable.
The 80s Flick Flashback Podcast will return after these messages.
Are you a fan of movies and TV shows inspired by comics? Ready for a podcast that dives deep into the thrilling world of adaptations? Well, look no further. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. This is your go-to podcast for all things comics on screen. I'm your host, Laramy Wells, and every Monday we explore the dynamic universe where ink meets action. We break down the classics, reveal hidden gems, and uncover the creative process behind your favorite adaptations. Subscribe to Moving Panels now on your favorite podcast platform and join us on this epic journey through the pages of comics and onto the big screen. Remember, new episodes drop every Monday. Don't miss out. Moving Panels, where every panel has a story and every adaptation is a blockbuster. Subscribe today, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
This episode is brought to you by Nerds Gummy Clusters, the sweet treat that always elevates the vibe. With a sweet gummy surrounded with tangy, crunchy nerds, every bite of Nerds Gummy Clusters brings you a whole new world of flavor. Whether it's game night, on the way to a concert, or kicking back with your crew, unleash your senses with Nerds Gummy Clusters.
What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Hell, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop culture roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from three nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.
All right, well, let's jump into casting. So there's really only a very small, main cast, and I didn't really call them cameos, so I listed them as special appearances. So we'll kind of
all the other groundlings.
Yeah, yeah. And I only mean there was a lot more on the list, but I try to only mention ones that either I recognized or they had some kind of history to them. But the film featured several Reubens fellow cast members from the Groundlings, as Laramy mentioned, who had previously appeared on the Pee-wee Herman show, namely Phil Hartman, Lynn Marie Stewart, John Paragon, and John Moody. Hartman, Stewart, and Paragon will also later appear on the TV series Pee-wee's Playhouse. Jan Hooks was also a fellow Groundling, and both she and Hartman would go on to become cast members of Saturday Night Live in 1986. So it's funny to me to think that I think by the time I probably saw it in the theater before then, but going back and watching it on TV or watching it on cable, whenever Phil Hartman or Jan Hooks came on, I was like, oh, there's the guys from Saturday Night Live. It's hard for me to think that they were on that.
This was before. Yeah.
Right.
So, but right at a year. So it's kind of around the same time. But so of course we got Paul Reubens, who they don't use his real name in the credits at all. I mean, even the beginning is
he lived this character.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
No one, I don't even think I knew his name was Paul Reubens until he was arrested. I
wasn't going to talk about the part, but yeah,
we don't have to.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, left that part out. So Reubens acted in numerous shows and movies such as Murphy Brown, 30 Rock, Portlandia, and The Blacklist. He was also in movies such as Mystery Men, Blow, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Reubens Pee-wee character
greatest death scene ever.
Yeah, yeah. The Pee-wee character maintained an enduring popularity with both children and adults. Playhouse garnered 15 Emmy Awards during its initial run and was aired again on late night television in the 2000s, during which TV Guide dubbed it among the top 10 cult classic television programs. And sadly, Reubens died of cancer in July of 2023. So yeah, I remember when he passed away. That was pretty sad. So, but yeah,
him, Jan Hooks, and Phil Hartman are all
all gone. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So before we jump into the rest of the cast, I mean, Pee-wee Herman became this huge cultural icon of the 80s. Now I know Larry was probably too young to know how big of an impact, but Ben, what do you remember about the
Hold up now. You're going to have to come back to me on that one, because I can go off on some cultural impact of Pee-wee.
All right. Well, if you want to go first, go for it.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Oh, no, because again, I was almost prime age for Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, because again, in 86, I was 5. And that was when Pee-wee's Playhouse premiered.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I was prime age for Saturday morning, Pee-wee's Playhouse. I fell in love with Pee-wee at that age, to the point where I had the pull string doll.
Yeah,
I remember that. Which I still have. the pull string doesn't work anymore, but I still have the doll. I always wanted Cherry. They had a Cherry for that doll to sit in.
Right.
Didn't have that. But I had the what were they called? Back in the 80s. The little sticker set you could get where you'd put the stickers on them, but then you could take the stickers off. I wish I could remember what those things were called.
Yeah, I had peel and stick or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. I had that of Pee-wee's Playhouse. I mean, I did the best I could to dress as Pee-wee for Halloween one year. I don't think I went and got the trash bag suit or anything. I think I actually tried to find a gray suit.
The trash bag.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So no, I 100% was a proud card-carrying member of the Pee-wee Herman fan club.
Right.
When I was a child, just running around, I know you are, what am I? And doing all of the crazy Pee-wee things, Mecca like a high, Mecca hiney ho, all that stuff associated with Pee-wee's Playhouse. So no, I was 100%. And even though I didn't see Pee-wee's Big Adventure in theaters, I did see Big Top Pee-wee in theaters.
Oh yeah.
So
you know what? I forgot that was actually an '80s movie. I thought that came out in the '90s. So we'll have to cover it on the podcast.
There you go.
I don't know why I thought that was a '90s movie, but yeah, it's like '87 or '88. I think it was like a couple years after. But yeah, Ben. So what was Pee-wee? Well, a huge, not as big of an impact as Laramy, obviously, but
right. No, I guess because I was a little bit older,
right.
By the time Pee-wee's Playhouse was on, I think I remember watching it sometimes and thinking it was funny, but it also seemed a little too juvenile for. I was a cool 12 or 13-year-old by that time, and I do remember. I remember my best friend at the time watched it a little bit more than I did, and I remember he used to always say, "I want to be the baby," and I don't know. I think it was Terry maybe said that, but he would say that all the time. And I know he was quoting Pee-wee.
Whenever they would play house, and he and Miss Yvonne, and then Terry would say, "He's like, I want to be the baby." And Globey would want to be the baby. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
I did probably sneak a watch of the HBO special that was the Pee-wee Herman show that was more for adults, as we said, and a lot of the jokes went over my head. I actually started to watch it again last night after we finished Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and I'd forgotten a lot about that too, but so that HBO special, and then Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the movie, and then after that, I kind of drifted out of Pee-wee land. Yeah, I mean, I do. Of course, you're right. He was very much a cultural icon in the 80s. I kind of felt like I was a little too old for him.
Yeah,
but I will still to this day, because I mean, I think people know I'm a math teacher, and if ever I'm graphing something, I will still to this day, as I am graphing, start singing "Connect the Dots," la la la, connect the dots.
I do.
None of my students have any clue what that is, but I will still do it.
Paul Reubens didn't really appear as a non-Pee-wee character until like the 90s or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because even, and I'm sure you're going to get into this, but even when, if it's true, I don't know if this is 100% true, but of course, Cassandra Peterson has her cameo in this movie, and then he returns the favor in her movie, but he is completely hidden because he can't show his face because people would immediately go, "There's Pee-wee."
Right.
So yeah. So to my knowledge,
she's almost unrecognizable.
Yeah, you take the black wig off of her. I mean, she's a natural redhead. I mean, that immediately she's unrecognizable. But Paul Reubens, I mean, that was his hair, that was his face. There wasn't really a lot of difference. Yeah, and so when he makes his appearance in Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, he's got a full a wig and a beard, and he's just completely hidden as a biker, returns kind of the same favor there.
Cameo, yeah. All right, but yeah, it was huge. Like Laramy said, you had the toys, you had the TV show. I mean, he was kind of everywhere. So, all right, well, let's move on down the line of the cast. So then we've got Elizabeth Daily, also known as E.G. Daily, as Dottie, as a bike shop employee who is Pee-wee's friend and obviously has a crush on him. But she's best known for her animation voices, such as Tommy Pickles on Rugrats in its spinoff All Grown Up, Buttercup in the Powerpuff Girls, Rudy Tabooty on Chalk Zone, and Julius on Julius Jr. She also voiced the title character in the live-action film Babe, Pig in the City, Bam Bam Rubble in the live-action film The Flintstones, and Froggy in The Little Rascals. but you can also see her in several 80s movies, including Valley Girl, No Small Affair, Fandango, and Streets of Fire. She was also a well-established singer who released 4 studio albums, including Wild Child in 85, Lace Around the Wound in 89, Tearing Down the Walls in 99, and Changing Faces in 2008. And she's also in Better Off Dead as she's singing the title song from the movie at the dance, the homecoming dance. So kind of a brief cameo there. And I will say I didn't meet her personally, but I did go to a screening of Better Off Dead in Savannah a couple of years ago, and they had several. So Diane Franklin and Amanda Wyss was there with the director, Savage Steve Holland, and they had different people zoomed in from LA. So they had her, I have lost his name. I see his face, who played the best friend and also played Booger in Revenge of the Nerds.
I can't think of the actor's name either.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about.
We all know who you're talking about.
It's just Booger.
It's just Booger. Just a Booger, you know what it is. Yeah, so he was there. So it was cool kind of getting to see her. Any thoughts on her as Dottie?
No, I liked her as Dottie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very likable character.
She's very likable. Yeah.
And of course, growing up knowing Rugrats, I mean, you hear Tommy Pickles when she speaks.
Right.
There's no doubt about that.
All right, I'll preface this with rumor. These are the other actresses that were considered, quote unquote, for the role of Dottie: Lori Loughlin, Laura Dern, Phoebe Cates, Leah Thompson, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Let's just think of every popular
big, it girl of the 80s.
Mm-hmm. For that kind of age group. So, but I think she was perfectly cast. And I read that they did not meet until the first day of filming, and so even Burton was surprised at how well their chemistry was from the immediately meeting. So, it was good casting there. All right, now we've got Mark Holton as Francis Buxton, the spoiled man-child who is Pee-wee's arch enemy and neighbor. He is best known for his role here as Francis. He was also Chubby in the Teen Wolf film series, Ozzie Jones in the Leprechaun film series, and for his portrayal of serial killer John Wayne Gacy in the movie Gacy in 2003. Paul Reubens and Tim Burton's first choice to play Francis was Rick Moranis, because they wanted Francis to be a nerdy antagonist, and they wanted Moranis for the part because of his performance as Lewis in Ghostbusters. But Moranis turned down the role because he said he wouldn't feel comfortable playing a thief who acts like a child, which makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm just picturing, because this was 85.
Mm-hmm.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids came out in
86 or 87.
Yeah. So no, he couldn't have. Would have looked too old.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different to be an adult and acting like a kid that Paul Reubens and Mark Holton are doing.
Yeah.
But Rick Moranis would have looked too old to be playing a kid, or an adult kid.
Right. And he's probably shorter than Pee-wee, so he wouldn't be very menacing. Like I liked the kind of size dynamic between Francis and Pee-wee, so which worked.
Yeah, it would have been different, but I love me some Rick Moranis.
Oh yeah.
So I can't say that it wouldn't have worked. I think Rick would have figured it out. He would have found a way.
So Corey Feldman was also rumored to have been offered the role of Francis, but turned it down due to scheduling conflicts with the Goonies. But Paul Reubens, as Pee-wee Herman, did visit the Goonies set once, as both films were being shot on the same lot. So I don't see Corey Feldman at all. That would have been really, because Feldman was definitely a kid. Yeah. Why would you have, it wouldn't make sense for Pee-wee being the man-child to be bullied by an actual child, even though.
Even though you got Jason Harvey later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I thought, Mark Holton was perfect for that role. I mean, he didn't really do a whole. I definitely remember him from Teen Wolf. That's probably the only other thing that I really remembered him from.
I knew him from Leprechaun. I knew him from this, but no, Leprechaun is one of my guilty pleasure horror movies. And then, I'm one of those serial killer fans. So I've also seen him as John Wayne Gacy. So. But he's one that you almost wish kind of did a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. And then I'm going to mention this actress, not so much because of all the work she did, but just because of the few things that she did do. And that's Diane Salinger as Simone, the tourist stop waitress who dreams of visiting France. I only mention her because she was in 3 films with Paul Reubens, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Pee-wee's Big Holiday, but she's also in Batman
Returns.
Because they play the father and mother of the penguin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can picture that now.
Yeah. And once again, an almost unrecognizable Paul Reubens because he doesn't look like Pee-wee in that little cameo there. So, she was in a couple. She's been in a lot of things, but very small bit parts. Nothing that you would really recognize her from. But I did, I thought that was I see that like every once in a while pop up on the 80s. So, did you know that these from Pee-wee's Big Adventure were also in Batman Returns? So, worth mentioning.
And then, even though she is in another Pee-wee movie, plays a completely different character.
Different character. Yep, exactly. Yep. All right, so now we get into our special appearances, and these are in no particular order. We've got Professor Toru Tanaka as the butler of the Buxton family. Of course, he was best known for his work in the WWW Federation from 67 to 78. He was a 3-time tag team champion with partner Mr. Fuji and 1-time international tag team champion with Mitsu Arakawa. In 2019, he was posthumously inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame as a legacy member. So, with Laramy being a huge wrestling fan, I thought he would appreciate the references there. But recognized him immediately. And then we've got Jan.
Hold up. We can't move on and not talk about the fact that he is Sub-Zero in The Running Man.
Oh, that's right. He is Sub-Zero in The Running Man. I forgot about that.
He's the first guy to go after Arnold in The Running Man.
That's right. Thank you for bringing that up. Keep me honest. So next we got Jan Hooks, who we mentioned before as Tina, the Alamo tour guide. She's best known for her 10-year on Saturday Night Live, where she was a repertory player from 86 to 91. After SNL, she continued to make cameo appearances until 1994. She also did work as a regular on the last 2 seasons of Designing Women, a recurring role on Third Rock from the Sun, another great comedy, and a number of other films and television roles, including 30 Rock and The Simpsons. My favorite fact is she improvised all the dialogue for her scenes as the Alamo tour guide. So everything she said was completely improvised, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
Impressive too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, come from the groundlings. I mean, that you're primed for that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, and then as Laramy mentioned, we got Cassandra Peterson as Biker Mama of Satan's Helpers. She's best known for her portrayal of horror hostess character Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. She gained fame on LA's television station KHJ-TV in her stage persona as Elvira, hosting Elvira's Movie Macabre. Can never say that word. A weekly B-movie presentation. So, and you can actually see a portrait of Elvira on the wall of Mario's Magic Shop at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, I noticed that.
I did
never noticed that.
Yeah, I noticed. I looked at it and I thought maybe it was, and then when I saw it on when I was doing research, I was like, okay, my eyes weren't deceiving me. That really was a picture of her. So, and at that point, I'd forgot that I knew they were friends, but I'd forgot that she actually had a cameo in the movie until she popped up later. So, all right, next on the list, we've also mentioned him, Jason Hervey as Kevin Morton, the bratty child star. His early career, he had small roles in films including Back to the Future, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Meatballs Part 2, Police Academy 2, Their First Assignment. He also had a recurring role as Charlie in the final season of Different Strokes, but his big break came as cast member of the successful family dramedy The Wonder Years as the older brother of Fred Savage's character. That's probably what most people remember him from, but yeah.
And if you want another WWE, WWF reference, he actually went on to be a writer for the WWE.
Oh, did he really? Okay. Yep. I did not know that. Moving down the list, Phil Hartman has a cameo as a reporter. Of course, we know he was on Saturday Night Live. He was also in movies like House Guest, Sergeant Bilko, Jingle All the Way, and Small Soldiers. Had to mention him. And then we've got James Brolin as PW, because they wouldn't call him Pee-wee because of his, being an action star. But best known for his TV roles, Stephen Kiley on Marcus Welby, MD from 69 to 76. He was also on the TV show Hotel from 83 to 88, which is what I remember him from. and John Short and Life in Pieces from 2015 to 2019. He is also the father of actor Josh Brolin, if you did not know that. So, yeah.
That's how I described him to Ruby as we were watching it. Did you see that guy? That's the guy who played Thanos's dad.
Right. Yeah. So he made this in 85, and Josh was making Goonies probably around the same time, or they both released the same time. So, and then Morgan Fairchild as Dottie, quote unquote, in the movie version at the end. She began her career on the CBS daytime soap opera Search for Tomorrow. She was on Dallas. You know, she'd been in TV shows like Murphy Brown, 2.5 Men, Roseanne, Sybil, and Friends. Rumor, Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner were considered to play Pee-wee and Dottie instead of James Rowland, which would have been a nice little nod to the Fall Guy, which is pretty cool. People today wouldn't know this, but I'm sure we recognize the band filming their music video during the chase scene was Twisted Sister. Best known for their songs We're Not Gonna Take It and I Wanna Rock, both of which were associated with music videos noted for their sense of slapstick humor. So, I was like, they were definitely popular at that time, so that's probably why it made sense to have them.
I didn't recognize the song they were singing, though. I didn't know if that was a real Twisted Sister song or if they just made that up for the movie.
I didn't look that up, and I was kind of the same thing. I was like, why wouldn't they do a song that was already popular? Why do such a weird song?
Yeah.
Licensing. That's
yeah, probably. And then director Tim Burton has an uncredited cameo appearance as the street thug who confronts Pee-wee in a rainy back alley. Most people say it's hard to recognize him because, once again, he was only 26, so he looked very different. And then, of course,
I never knew that. I didn't recognize him even watching it last night.
Oh yeah, I didn't recognize him either. So, and then veteran comedy star Milton Berle has also
Uncle
has an
Milty,
uncredited cameo for Pee-wee's way to sneak onto the Warner Brothers set at the end. So,
I just watched the movie Saturday Night, which has J.K. Simmons playing Milton Berle.
Yeah,
and then if you've seen it, it's kind of weird to then see the real Milton Berle. It's like, okay, I know something about that guy. All right.
All right. Anybody else on the cast that I know that there was tons of other people on there, but like I said, I was trying to keep it short. But anybody that I overlooked that you felt worth mentioning?
I think you hit all the main ones.
All the ones you recognized?
Well, I mean, like, I recognize the hobo that's on the train.
Right.
He's one of those character actors.
He's one of those that guys.
Yeah. I couldn't necessarily maybe pinpoint what other movies he's been in, but I know I've seen him in other stuff.
Yeah.
But definitely one of those, that guy. Same thing with Amazing Larry. Like, I know I've seen him in other stuff. So
have something to share, Amazing Larry. Yeah. Man, so funny.
Oh, and the guy who actually stole the bike at the beginning, the guy who was paid by Francis.
Yeah.
He's in a ton of stuff too. I don't know his name.
Yeah, like he looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't really place him. But yeah.
He always plays like a 50s street tough.
Which is exactly what he was playing in that. Definitely give that 50s vibe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's talk about iconic scenes. This one's easy for me, but I'll let you guys go first. Someone says Pee-wee's Big Adventure was the first scene that pops in your head. Laramy's got like 16 of them.
Yeah.
So I let Ben go first. He can narrow his down.
Well, I have two.
Okay.
I think when I was a kid, the scene that I remembered the most was Large Marge.
Oh, of course. Because you were traumatized.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
It's like, I thought this was a comedy, And but then later it's the bar scene and the tequila, dance to tequila on the bar top.
Yeah. So while we're talking about Large Marge, I'll read my little trivia about that one. Large Marge almost got the axe from the final cut of the movie. It's one of the most memorable scenes in the entire movie, but it almost didn't make it to the screen. Burton said, "I almost cut the best thing before an audience saw it. It was a special effect, and those are usually the first things to go." IFC lists the scene as number 5 on their list of 25 scariest moments in non-horror movies. And I didn't do this when I watched it, but if you watch carefully, when Large Marge talks, she doesn't blink, not even once. She does the whole story without blinking. So I was like, that's pretty cool. So yeah.
And that is where Sir Anthony Hopkins got the idea for Hannibal Lecter. Yeah.
All right, Larry, what you got for iconic scene?
No, both of those. Yeah. Large Marge. I had told Ruby about it, and then it happened, and she was like, that wasn't scary. I was like, well, that's because one, you knew it was coming. And two, you were already familiar with Tim Burton.
right.
Because that was Beetlejuice. Like that was the first indication of his style of animation with Beetlejuice. Yeah, both of those. I'll even just go straight from the beginning, like the opening scene where he's getting up and the sliding down, Batman sliding down the pole,
right,
and getting it, into his suit, and the Rube Goldberg breakfast machine, which I love. He takes like 2 bites of the cereal, and that's
and then dabs the corner of his mouth.
Dabs the corner of his mouth. And I also got a kick out of the Mr. T cereal, which I also love that it's here's Pee-wee Herman, who people only know him as Pee-wee Herman, with a Mr. T cereal, another 80s character.
Right.
Who the man lived that character.
Oh yeah, still does. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I also love that it was new Mr. T cereal. Like the word new was on it. I'm like, man, I missed that cereal. I actually remember that cereal.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
It was very similar to Captain Crunch. Like it was.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Because
I would tear the roof of your mouth up.
You had to let it sit in that milk for that extra few minutes.
Man.
Like you had to catch that just the right time before it like became just like mush, but it wasn't going to tear up the top of your mouth. Like,
but I love that feeling of like crunching it against the top of your mouth.
Some people do. I'm not one of those
you
people.
You paid for it later. Right.
Some people do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I think a lot of the stuff at the beginning, because there's that, there's the I mean, honestly, Francis in his swimming pool bathtub.
Yeah.
And the way he's playing with the ships. But even the magic shop, like I wanted a shop like that near me when I was a kid. Like I wanted that stuff. So yeah, I mean, everything. That movie for me, again, as a huge Pee-wee Herman fan as a child, as a child, I'm 43 years old. I still love Pee-wee Herman. Everything about that movie, I love every moment of it. It's one of those, as I'm getting to now watch it with my kids, I'm just, watch this, watch this. Or I'm just sitting there quoting. Bethany she was so excited about, and this is kind of getting to maybe like a favorite quote or whatnot, but the I'm in Texas. No, really, listen. The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. That's such a great scene. And then they follow up just a couple of scenes later with I remember.
Yeah.
The Alamo.
It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just I love everything about this movie. So the whole thing is my favorite. The whole thing is there you go.
Gotcha. Yeah, the iconic scene for me was the bar, like the Pee-wee Herman dance, just because it became so iconic after that. And then the song Tequila. Large Marge is also iconic. I mean, that's probably one of the main scenes that I remember from the movie years later. So but favorite scenes, my favorite scene, and I did have a few, I had to kind of narrow it down. My favorite scene is when Pee-wee saves the pets from the burning pet shop.
And he keeps looking.
He looks at the snakes.
Yeah, just keeps looking at the snakes.
Coming. And even watching it now, I couldn't wait for him to get to the snakes. It was so much fun. And it's such once again, one of those vignettes, it doesn't do anything for the plot. It's just there for pure comedy effect. But yeah, I love that. And everything he brings out, the rats and the birds, what all is in this pet shop. And then the fire never gets bigger or smaller. It's just the same fire the whole time. So,
and I I'm a big, anybody who listens to my podcast knows that I'm all about the logic of a movie.
Yes.
I like that they show him actually getting fish when he walks out. You clearly know there's no way he got all the fish. In fact, when he goes back in after the snakes, you can see fish in a tank. But I love that they just have him say,
Right.
There's still more fish in there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's just perfect. By the way, you know the little pink dog that the monkey walks out with? Do you know that's the same dog from Silence of the Lambs?
Yes, I did read that.
What?
I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. He was in a couple other movies too, but that's probably the most popular. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. That's some.
Yeah, that's Buffalo Bill's dog from Silence of the Lambs.
That's that dog has some range as an actor.
I need his agent. But Paul Reubens wasn't really acting when he was forced to save the snakes and run out of the pet shop. Reubens was actually terrified of snakes. The scene could not be done with fake snakes, and Tim Burton insisted Reubens do the scene with real snakes. Reubens trusted Burton and did it himself. So,
that scene could not be done today.
No.
I'm just going to say they would be CGI snakes.
Oh yeah.
Also, are you pretty sure, as I am, that fireman that gets to him actually steps on one of those snakes?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was thinking the same thing. Yep. Oh man.
Well. R.I.P. Snake.
Yeah. We lost one. But going back to the opening scene, I want to bring this up too, is what was our fascination in 84, 85 with do-it-yourself gadgets that like made stuff? Like it was in Gremlins. It's the opening of Doc Brown and Back to the Future, and then we see it again here. Like I was like, man, that was such a thing that was like innovation. Like we were trying. It was
I think
the before technology was really there yet. We were just experimenting with these things.
And it just establishes something about the character, I think. That
creativity.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
With Doc Brown, with Pee-wee, whoever, it's and Data in Goonies. Like it immediately says something about that character. So.
Yeah. Thinking outside the box, like not taking the world as it is, but wanting to see it advance. So
because even Ernest did it in I know he does it in Saved Christmas. He has a little machine. I look, you never can go wrong with a Rube Goldberg machine. Like just that alone. Just love it. Although there is no way that little chicken bobber actually cracked open that egg, because I don't think it ever made contact with the egg, to be honest.
Yeah. And where do the pancakes that ended up on the ceiling, will they ever fall back down? That's what I want to know.
Those are the ones that ended up on his plate.
All of them? I thought we just one. Yeah.
Maybe just ate one bite anyway. So
yeah. He didn't even eat any of the actual breakfast.
Right.
He ate 2 pieces of Mr. T cereal.
Yes.
And then he was done.
He buttered his two slices of toast. He had bacon and was it strawberries? What was the eyes?
Oh yeah, he had the Fruity Tooty Fresh and Fruity, whatever. Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity, whatever the name of that thing is.
That's it. Yeah.
Although I love Ruby actually made a comment. She was like, after looking at his house, like Pee-wee's the one that's rich.
Yeah.
Like not so much that it's Francis, like Pee-wee's rich. So.
Yeah. Speaking of logic, like I just, you have to, it's complete escapism. I mean, we know that going in, but you're like, how does this, how does he make his money? How does he have a living? How does he function as an adult? But
that would be an interesting, spinoff. It's just like Pee-wee going to work at the warehouse. And,
No, he had a huge inheritance. There's his parents were killed and left him a whole bunch of money, and that's what he's lived off of his entire life. He's never grown up. That's his backstory. There you go.
Yeah, I do love how he has every holiday decoration on his front lawn. Like that was, that was perfect. And then his little high-tech password to get to his bike behind the gate. So, but yeah. All right. Any other favorite scenes you guys can think of that you want to?
The end with the movie premiere at the drive-in. That's what I think that's what kind of holds up best watching it as an adult now for me. And my kids, I watched it with a couple of my kids last night, and that's kind of what made them laugh the most. My son laughed really hard at the Paging Mr. Herman.
Yes. And he's constantly looking into the camera.
Yeah, and like mouthing other people's lines.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, that is a masterclass for an actor to watch of, like, you know, he's doing everything you know you're not supposed to do to show that he's not a good actor. And it's just like he breaks every single rule. He looks at the camera, he's mouthing the other person's lines, he's trying to get in the frame when he's not in the scene. Oh my gosh, that I will say that is like pure gold. Pure gold.
And even though, and that's clearly for comedic effect, but you also, if you try to put logic into it, it's like, what director actually would use that cut?
Right. Exactly.
Especially the one when they have the phone call and then they go off and you can clearly tell he's getting direction as to where to go.
Right.
He makes a little nod and then starts moving. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I love too, it's like, you know, we want to make a movie about your story and you're thinking it's going to be, you know, his story. And then it's like, no, it's James Bond type with the, what is it? The X1.
The X1.
Yeah, X1.
The secret compartment with the microfilm.
The 80s Flick Flashback Podcast will return after these messages.
Hey there, fellow 80s movie aficionados. Are you ready to embark on a nostalgia-filled journey to the greatest era of cinema? Then look no further than the Retro Life for You 80s Movie Podcast. Join us every week as we rewind the VHS tape, dust off those Betamax classics, and dive headfirst into the neon-soaked, totally tubular world of the 1980s movies. From the Brat Pack to action heroes, we've got it all covered. Breakfast Club, Ghostbusters, E.T. and Indiana Jones, and more. It's like a trip in Doc Brown's time machine, but without the DeLorean. So whether you're a die-hard 80s film buff or just curious about the cinematic gems of the past, Retro Life for You is your ticket to the ultimate movie time warp. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Retro Life for You, and we can be found anywhere you listen to your podcast, as well as on our website, www.retrolife4u.com.
What's up, dudes? I'm Jerry D of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, books, fashion, and fads.
If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, he's got it covered. Wait, is there a lot of things to talk about for the 80s and Christmas?
Well, you got the movie giants like Christmas Vacation, Scrooged, and A Christmas Story. There are TV specials like Muppet Family Christmas, Claymation Christmas Celebration, and a Garfield Christmas special.
Plus classics shown every year.
You also jam out to Last Christmas, Do They Know It's Christmas, and Christmas in Hollis. But most of all, it was a time for the most bodacious, best-selling Christmas toys ever, like He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers,
and Cabbage Patch Kids.
Yes, them too. We cover them all, plus much more, including standard segments like Hap Hap Happiest Memory, Gag Me with the Spoon, The Other Half of the Battle,
and Chant with the Littles.
So tune in to Totally Rad Christmas everywhere you get your podcasts. Turn the clock back and dive into those warm and fuzzy memories.
Later, dudes.
All right, well let's hit some trivia. May help us think of some other scenes. So we're talking about the drive-in. We're right there. The drive-in sequence was filmed at the Studio Drive-In, formerly located in Culver City, California. The studio was built in the 30s and was the first drive-in theater constructed in California. It served as a set for several films, including Grease in 1978. It was closed in 1993 and demolished in 1998. There is no trace of the drive-in remaining. So sad. So sad. And then we mentioned him playing a hotel desk clerk was also his debut acting role in a movie within a movie. Paul Reubens previously played a similar role as a hotel desk clerk in Cheech and Chong's next movie in 1980, one of his first film roles. Both films feature the song Tequila by the Champs. And I think I saw that him and... Yeah, he actually is in Meatballs Part 2. He plays the bus driver. So him and Jason Hervey were also in a movie previously. All right, we didn't talk that much about, we mentioned it at the beginning, but let's talk about Danny Elfman. Elfman wasn't actually scoring films at the time, at least not on the scale that he is now. Burton knew him through his work with Oingo Boingo, and Paul Reubens knew him for music he had written for a film called The Forbidden Zone. After meeting with Burton to chat about the project, Elfman went home with a tune in his head. He said, I did a demo on a 4-track tape player playing all the parts, and I made a cassette and sent it to him and never expected to hear back again. But that piece of music became the main title of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and it got me the job. I was really shocked. It was, of course, the beginning of a long-time collaboration and friendship between Elfman and Burton.
Yeah, you almost can't imagine not having a Tim Burton movie that doesn't have a Danny Elfman score.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
It's just part of the formula. It's got to have a Danny Elfman score.
I do like, though, that he sampled the Wicked Witch of the West theme when they do the bicycle chase. I did like that.
There were a few nods. There's a nod to Alfred Hitchcock when Pee-wee's standing in front of the bicycle wheels and they're all spinning behind him.
Oh yeah,
that was a Hitchcock nod or homage.
Vertigo.
Yeah, but I didn't have much trivia on this one. I know the scene where after the bike is stolen, he goes back into the bike shop and passes out. He actually had a very bad case of the flu, so they say he actually looks more pale in that scene than other scenes. But
and that's a big thing to say, that Paul Reubens looks pale.
Yeah,
or Pee-wee looks pale.
Exactly.
He clearly wears a lot of foundation when he plays Pee-wee. More so in Pee-wee's Big Holiday when you go back and watch that. Of course, his face is mostly CGI'd in that movie.
Oh wow, weird. Yeah, I haven't. I think I watched it, but it's been a while because it came out 2016, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
No, it was more recent than that. The Big Holiday on Netflix. Yeah. I want to say it came out during COVID lockdown and stuff.
No, it was 2016.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe that's when you finally got around to watching it.
I guess so. Yeah, maybe. All right. My bad.
No worries. All right. Well, let's talk about box office. So Pee-wee's Big Adventure opened on August 9th, 1985 in the United States. It was only released in 829 theaters. As Ben was mentioning, it did have a limited release. But it ended up landing at number 3 at the box office that weekend behind another new release, Summer Rental with John Candy, which came in at number 2, but it was in double the amount of theaters. Back to the Future was still at number 1 for its 6th week. The other new releases that weekend were Val Kilmer's Real Genius that debuted at number 7, and My Science Project came in at number 14.
I'd say that all sounds about right.
Yeah. So executives at CBS approached Reubens' manager at the movie's premiere and wanted to know if Pee-wee, quote unquote, was interested in doing a cartoon show. But Reubens had another format in mind and asked how they would feel about something live action. He said, I was thinking about how important all those kids shows were to me when I was a kid and how much I feel like they affected me, and that just seemed really exciting to me. I was really excited by the idea that doing a real kids show would potentially affect kids in an amazing, positive, and great way. Pee-wee's Playhouse debuted 1 year later in '86. But yep. So yeah, I think it was better. A cartoon. Everybody else was doing cartoons at that point. So many different movies became cartoons, but he did something original and made it like a real kids show that that adults and kids could watch. Lawrence Fishburne got one. Some early
Cowboy Curtis.
And then Phil Hartman would make appearances as well.
Actually, let's talk about Pee-wee's Playhouse connection. So the nun, in that scene, that nun is Miss Yvonne from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah. Don't ask me the actress's name.
You just know that fact.
She's Miss Yvonne is all I.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, the nun that makes Jason Harvey's character all upset and all that is Miss Yvonne from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
I will say that's another fun scene with that whole thing. I'm not going to work with him again. He's, if she was, wouldn't miss her cute, that just whole, the bratty, actor kid and the established actress. I thought that was funny. Director trying to be the middleman. So, all right. Well, now we come to a new segment where we take a look at how well this 80s flick holds today. The all new rewatchability nostalgia meter is our way of measuring how enjoyable a movie is for repeat viewings, along with waves of nostalgia it brings. Here's how it works. It's a 1 to 10 scale. Any number between 1 and 10 will do, but here are a few parameters to help you decide. At the bottom of the meter is a number 1, which basically says, I saw it once and that was enough. Number 5 in the middle would be a good rewatch every couple of years. And at the top of the meter is a 10, highly rewatchable and full of nostalgia. So I kind of already know what Laramy's going to say, so I'll start with Ben. Where does Pee-wee's Big Adventure land on the rewatchability and nostalgia meter for you?
I don't want this to sound like a low score, but there's a lot of movies that I would rank higher than Pee-wee's Big Adventure. As much as I love it and as much as I enjoyed watching it again last night, I'm gonna give it a 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Laramy.
Look, I'm gonna be reasonable about this.
Okay.
I mean, yes, it when I watch it, like I immediately am enjoying every moment of it. I'm excited to watch it. It's like you said, it's that nostalgia factor. It's, all these, it's one of those movies, like I said, that I can quote a good chunk of it. But the fact that, I stated at the very beginning, I haven't seen it in 10 to 15 years.
Right.
It's unfortunately not one of those that I'm just like, you know what I'm in the mood for? Watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I'll probably give it an 8. But yes, personally, it's a 22. But for the sake of being reasonable with this ranking, I'd give it an 8.
Yeah. I'm kind of like right between. I was giving like a 7.5 to an 8. And once again, watching it again, I appreciated it a lot more now, having not seen it in such a long time. And like I said, it's pure escapism. It's like that. It was, and I watched it on a Saturday morning, so it was like the perfect time, kind of movie. Like sit down with a cup of coffee, maybe a good old bowl of Mr. T cereal to put you in the mood, and just escape for 90 minutes. And it's not a long movie. You don't have to like block out a whole lot of time. But it's it's very silly. It's very it is kind of oddball in spots. This is one I would probably watch every couple of years, but I don't think it as low as a 5 because it did bring up a lot of nostalgia for me. So yeah, I would say like 7.5, like between a 7 and an 8 is pretty much where I was gonna put it. So
we're all right there.
Yeah. I really thought Laramy was gonna go higher, but he made valid points.
I'm gonna make my argument. I will say this though, and I will ask either of you: is there a scene that you feel brings down the movie?
Nothing stands out to me.
So I will say the one to me that comes the closest. I'm not going to say it does, but the one that comes closest is the almost extended time he has with Simone in the dinosaur,
right,
watching the sunrise, which makes no sense because then when the boyfriend's listening from down, it's bright, it's complete daylight,
right,
yeah. But that one almost, it's like if it had been maybe a minute or two longer, I would say that it completely brought down the movie. I think it ended up being just the right length. I do kind of like that is the one scene that kind of has the adult jokes in it.
Yes,
that would go right over a kid's head.
Yeah,
some of the what the boyfriend is overhearing.
Right. Oh yeah.
So that's what it is for me. But again, that's where I put this. Like, there isn't a moment where the movie just kind of comes to a stop. Like, it moves, and even with the little vignettes that don't really progress the story any, you're still up there enjoying it every moment. So yeah, no, again, personally for me, it's a extremely high rank, but being the logical, and I understand we're trying to make this for other people. But if we can do points, I'll make it an 8.5. How about that?
Okay. Yeah, sure. It's still new. We're making up the rules as we go. It's all good. Yeah. Anything else we want to say about the movie before we wrap this one up?
You just got to love every moment of it. And y'all get ready for this. I mean, all the way from his dancing to his laughing to his suit and his bow tie.
Come on. I was going to find a way to put it in before we.
I was thinking about it the whole time. I was like, I'm worried that if I just throw it in, like neither of them's going to remember.
Yeah.
So
I was waiting. I thought somebody might say it. It's a good one to watch again if you haven't seen it in a while. It's a good one to watch with some people who like I said, I had shown it to my kids, but they didn't really remember it. So they got to watch it again, kind of for the first time with me last night, and they both enjoyed it too. It's the kind of movie that they would never have watched on their own if I hadn't said, "Hey, I've got to watch this for the podcast." Who wants to watch it with me? They liked it.
Very cool. Wait, I actually have something I want to throw in.
Sure.
So this movie, when I originally saw it back as a kid, was I think the first movie that I ever noticed a goof.
Oh, okay.
However, when they then transferred it to DVD, I think they cut the scene.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those things where I think when it aired in one format, you didn't notice this, but then when it aired in another format, you could see more.
Yeah.
And it's when he's pulling the chain out of the bike. I remember you used to be able to see the chain coming from up under the bike as he's pulling it out of that compartment.
But maybe on the TV version or something.
Yeah.
Because
but as I was watching it this time, I went to go look for it and I was like, oh no, they've got it cut just at the right height. So I don't know if it's maybe my TV size or what that it took that out. But I always remember that was one of the first goofs I ever witnessed in a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a few memories of that too. Like I saw it in the theater a certain way, and then you can't find it. And now they've fixed all those things now, but different. Probably back then when it was actually on film, you had so many different prints. I'm sure they probably had certain theaters would get oddball prints or whatever that would have. There was a scene in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where I saw the boom mic was kept falling into the top of the frame, and then and this one was talked about. I think the version that Ebert and Siskel or whatever saw in Great Outdoors, when the bear is on the door on top of John Candy, you could see a stick from the trainer trying to get it to react. And I remember seeing that on TV. And then whenever I saw the movie, it wasn't as noticeable, but I did still see it. But all the versions I've seen now, you can't see it. They've recut it where you can't see it. So, well, Laramy, what do you got coming up on moving panels for end of January going into February?
So as January is coming to an end, we've talked about Daredevil. I've got an episode coming up about The Phantom, Billy Zane.
Yep.
And then of course in February, Bethany and I always do our date night episode where we find a movie that we deem is a quality date night movie in honor of Valentine's Day. So we got that coming. And then, of course, our March Madness, where this year we're going to pit the Smallville universe against the Arrowverse.
Okay.
And decide which one made a bigger impact to DC on television.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Ben, I'll cut this out if you don't have much of a... How's your podcast planning coming?
We got. I'm not ready to announce anything yet.
Okay,
we've recorded a couple of episodes, and cool. I'm excited about how it's turning out. So we just want to bank a few, and then then we'll put it out there. Maybe sometime later this year, I think.
Okay, cool. So, well, I'll cut that part out so we're not.
No, you can leave
it in. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So
it's just a little teaser.
Teaser. There you go. All right, good deal. We'll be looking for that. He won't announce the title, but he and I have talked about it. So it's going to be a great show. You're going to want to check it out when it does release. So stay tuned for that. So, well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Laramy and Ben, for being a part. Always a pleasure to have you guys on the show. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
The treat.
Yep. All right. That's a wrap on this episode. I'm Tim Williams for the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Tell them Large Marge sent you.
Pure fun. Goonies never say die, they remind. In those films we lose our mind. John Hughes and all his teen dreams, montages and synthwave themes. In Ferris hands, the city bends, living a life like it never ends.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.